See, I don't know whether to say now maybe the huge fan.
Have you always been that guy?
I'm obviously still trying to make sense of what it is that I am.
I strongly believe there's no such thing as an overnight success.
Yeah. I take learning seriously. I don't read. I never finished the curricular activity. You're talking about extra. And I've always had a thing for picking good company. Well, not women, but at some point I decided that my calling was stand-up comedy. I started making content in 2012.
What?
So this is my 12th year now. From 2020 till 2023, I gained about 50 followers on Facebook.
I don't even know what to say.
Hopefully I don't cry on Salem's podcast. I see a problem. I'm trying to fix that problem in alignment with the dictates of my faith. We can reach more people if we stand in front of somewhere that we know everybody will eventually come. Thank you very much, Salem.
Nice one! Eric, thank you so much for joining me here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm absolutely honored that you came. I have so many questions for you. I've always had many questions for you. I admire your work. The fact that you're both a creator, an author, a filmmaker, and you're also a blockchain researcher and like consultant. I didn't always know all these things about you. How I came across you first was watching videos where you are dragging us, but also making us think about our lives while also laughing, while also making us laugh at the same time. It's such a tricky balance, and I love your content. I love the ways in which you've decided to express and share yourself with the world. I'm such a huge fan.
Kind words. You can't say, I don't know whether to say now maybe the huge fan. I mean, now you be the huge fan because there's this strange thing I do.
Yeah.
Not often though, but once in a while. I remember these MI lyrics, right? Ask about me now, Google MI. So I Google Eric. Just randomly, just Google Eric to know what people see when they Google, or if anyone Googles Eric.
Yeah.
And there was this one time I Googled Eric, and then I saw your interview, and they asked you, which creator do you think people should be listening to more right now? And you said, Eric, bro, I didn't know how to feel. I felt special. I felt seen.
Yeah.
I think I felt seen. So I've always been a huge fan of your work. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And that was genuine, to be very honest. I watch your stuff and it's just like, oh, I like this. It's not just, oh, I like this. I think more people need to see this. That's how I feel about everything you do. So my first question right off the bat, help me make sense of who you are now. Like give me some insights into your background, because I strongly believe there's no such thing as an overnight success.
Yeah.
If there's anybody that looks as if this person just came out of nowhere and they're blowing up, there's been a cooking process.
Absolutely.
There always is. So what was that like for you?
Growing into what I appear to be right now, because I don't want to say what I am right now. Let's just stick with appearances, because I could
if you insist,
be very different, very different from what I present myself to be. But growing into this person, I'm obviously still trying to make sense of what it is that I am, and I think it's such a great place to be as well. Making sense of what it is that you are, where you are going. Because if I have it figured out, then I'm close to the end, right?
Yeah.
But getting to this point, it's been a journey, brilliant one. And when I say brilliant, my brilliant is defined in many ways. Could be, people could define it as, could see it as suffering, could see it as pain, could see it as solitary confinement, however it is. But I think these are all the things that make life beautiful. I find it brilliant. I find pain brilliant. But my becoming, which I still am in the middle of, to a point where some people think that I make sense. Some people value what I say, things like that, which is always shocking, by the way. It's been molded by the journey, obviously, a journey that's been that's defined by my faith, absolutely, on a very fundamental level. But it's also been defined by my life experiences, in terms of family structure, obviously, in terms of educational background, in terms of my relationship with people, and a lack of, in terms of people who've been my mentor,
Yeah.
And obviously we will reflect the things that we've taken in over time. So I think that a lot of that can be attributed, I can attribute to these experiences, as well as absorbed experiences from people that I have related with, right?
Yeah.
I take learning seriously. I don't read, not a lot, not like you.
What do you mean like me?
I'm not like you. I consume content differently.
Yeah.
I learn differently, but I do give myself to a lot of learning. And when I have the opportunity to be seated across from people who have value to give, like I am right now, I listen. I try to listen, and I try to think on those things a little later. So I think that's pretty much been.
What did you study in school?
We go India. So I did study engineering. My first degree was an engineering degree.
I like how I said my first degree, because not the only one. Very good.
Who would have thought that I will ever get a second one? But yes, my first degree was in engineering, agric engineering actually.
That's very interesting.
Okay.
Did you do anything with it, like in your life, or even now?
No. I think not. But I'm grateful for it, because if you don't have a BSc, you can't get
a master's.
Yeah, so I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the time spent. I can't help but think that I wasted my time, but you know, I'm now committed to getting people to not waste their time. Yeah, because I'm not against school, obviously. I think it's a very beautiful part of our process, not just in the things that we learn, on an educational front, but relationships that we build, which is the best part of school, the connection. I think it's great, but I think that we need, in this part of the world, we need more information going into that. We go into that with the shallowest forms of information. We're not prepared for it, and so we don't make the most of it. An overwhelming majority of us. Let's not make this a school talk, Sha. But
would you say going to school, even though it wasn't the best thing, it wasn't your preferred thing to study, would you say it still created a form of foundation for you? And if not, how did you make the best of it?
Oh, absolutely. I think it did create that foundation, because let's think about it. I think one of the core reasons school was designed is not to give you an educational edge or a know-how advantage over your peers. Not really. I think the fundamental reason, and I don't just think, the facts are there, you can have them checked out, is designed to give people structure, to get people to conform to a system, which human beings are inherently or naturally not supposed to do, or not inclined to do. We are inclined to be very spontaneous people, to be very laid back, to procrastinate a lot. But when you find yourself in a system that compels you to get up in the morning, compels you to do this set of activities over a period of time, builds habits in you, I would think that that's a fabulous thing. Obviously there are downsides, but that's a beautiful foundation to have growing up. How you then channel that, it's up to you and the knowledge that you gain along the way.
In your days in uni, were there any extracurriculars that you gave your time and attention to that are related to what you now do?
So I don't even remember my days in uni. When I talk about school like this,
what happened there? Did you blank it?
It was just a blur, like a whole blur and a half.
Oh my God.
Because I'm always the last person to come to class, and I'll be the first person to leave. Like I've lived a very little life up until this point. I'm trying to be a little more open, have more friends and things like that. But days in uni, I never finished the curricular activity. I'm talking about extra. Who puts the extra? Who gave you the right to do that? But I think that my best parts of uni were a couple of friends that I did have, doing things together with them. And I used to think myself to be a little book smart, just a little book smart, just a tiny bit. So the times when the small seasons of seriousness in my school life, maybe 1 week to exam, 2 days to exam, that kind of thing. The people that I get together with, go through stuff. I think, and I've always had a thing for picking good company. Not women, but after I suck at that.
Should I buy it?
It's horrible. I pick the worst ones. Did I just say that? Well, it is what it is.
I hope they are not.
But when it comes to What to watch? But yeah, when it comes to friends, I end up with the right people.
Yeah.
So I think thinking back to my school days, when out of everything that happened, I think those two people that I made my circle, the conversations we had, the knowledge that we shared, interactions, those were my highlights. I think that's weird, but those were my highlights. From uni. Yeah.
That's solid. I wonder, and I think about this a lot. Have you always been a funny guy? And let me give you context to why I'm asking. There was this one time when I had been following you for a while.
Yeah.
And I didn't know you personally, I only knew you through your content. And then there was a Twitter space where you were a speaker and I was also a speaker.
I remember that one.
And it wasn't the space really didn't have much to do with your career as a creator. It was more as a blockchain consultant. And that's what they were asking you questions about. So when it was your turn to speak, and you were like, oh, so the thing is, I'm just like, where is brother Eric? What's this accent?
There's that.
Is this how this guy talks? And it just made me realize your videos were so convincing that I thought that's how you talked. I didn't realize it was a character, you know, that you just created and expressed in that way. So it said a lot about you to me. It made me realize, there's a certain way this guy's mind works. He's, you know, kind of like how a voice actor thinks about, you know, certain characters. There's a character you're bringing to life. So have you always been that guy? Have you always been funny? Have you always been the one to communicate your ideas in a very interesting way?
So I'm learning a lot about myself. And I think we all are, but I'm learning a lot about myself. I think that the internet, or at least my side of the internet, has successfully managed to convince me that I'm funny. Right? It's not something
if
that
we're laughing, it's because you're funny.
And at first I'm like, why are they laughing? What is funny? What's going on here? Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I would say something that's just regular, right? And to me, and people are laughing. Okay, cool. There was a video I posted on Sunday, right? And it was just about 2.5 minutes of no point, right? Of me just telling a story. And after creating that story, my editor edited that, and I was going to post. I had to convince myself to post it because I listened to it. There was no point, there was no counsel, and there was just a bunch of gibberish that could be funny, but not really funny. And I don't think myself funny, so I was almost not going to post that. Then I heard Salem's voice in my head, post it, post it. And I did, and people found it to be hilarious. Like, I'm wheezing, I'm rolling on the floor. Things. It was so when I put out content that has funny bits here and there, I know from the comments. When I put out content that's specifically funny, I can tell. They thought it was hilarious, and I'm like, okay, right? So I've not always thought myself to be funny, and I think that's what happens when you grow up, sort of like the way that I did, because family shapes everything. Not just family, but the experiences around it. You grew up a certain way, and you can end up without confidence in your art, in your ability, or whatever it is that you do. I used to think I was funny growing up, right? And so at some point I decided that my calling was stand-up comedy. I did.
See, I just know that you've lived different lives. Like, you've lived many different. I can just tell.
I have. No, I have. I did. Like, I pursued. I saw my name. I would have been in my imagination, see my name up in lights, billboards here and there. Me, basket. Those big guys. And so I was pursuing a career in it. And when I landed my first gig, I remember where it was. They finally called me up to come and minister. At around 11:30 p.m. and everybody was tired. Many people were drunk and people were distracted, and I came up and I talked for like 10-15 minutes, and people were laughing, but they were not laughing for me, they were laughing at me.
Oh my God.
Because whatever it is that I thought I was doing was really not funny. It was that bad. It was so unfunny, it was funny. And that was the last time I ever did stand-up. That was the last time. And whatever thought I had in my head about me not being funny was sort of like really reinforced
By
in
that
that moment,
experience.
and I left it. I really did leave it. But so now that I'm putting content out there, I started trying to be funny again on the internet with a disguise. So here it is. I'm going to pretend like this post is about counsel, and then try to be funny in between.
Yeah.
So if it's not funny, there's another point to
Exactly.
it, right? I have these guys. So people found me. People think I'm funny, and I'm starting to believe that again. So yeah.
That's actually amazing. I love it. How did you start making content? Because you were not someone who needed to make content. You had a lot of other things going on in your life, and one day you just decided to start putting videos. How did that happen?
I started putting out content before I had a lot of things going for me, and so when I got into these other areas, when I got into film, when I got into tech, because I don't really like to refer to blockchain as tech, but when I got into tech, I was already doing content, and I was already doing it for so long it had become a part of me, right? So, because right now it's more difficult to not
How many
create.
years have you been making content?
I started making content in 2012.
What?
So this is my 12th year now. It's been a long time. Started on Twitter, but yeah, I've been around for.
What? 12? What was I doing 12 years ago? Are you kidding?
I am not.
This is crazy, because there's people who found out about you for the first time last week, right?
Yep.
And they're just like, oh my god, this new guy,
It's like,
new guy has hit 200K
overnight,
and they don't know that you've been at it for
absolutely
this long.
I've been trying to make content. I think some of my earliest, obviously when I started creating with text, right, on Twitter. We had lots of things, the influencers then, there was this thing that we do.
Yeah.
I mentioned all of that in my book, but there's this thing that we do where, we sort of promote each other, then we grow, then we get gigs and all that, and transition to BBM, which then crashed, and I was, left with nothing, started building again.
But this guy just said BBM. I'm sure there's people watching this that are just like, what's that?
What's BBM?
What's a BBM?
What's a BBM? What's it do? Yeah, but it's been a while. Up until today, I used to run a channel on BBM.
Wow.
And the title of the tag of that channel was, the name was Basketball Uncensored, a parody, right?
Wow.
What was the title? And I used to post things there and all that. Up until today, if you call, and I hope Basket doesn't call me one day, and I know he will, but I hope he doesn't call me one day. But up until today, if you call my number, Truecaller says Basketball Uncensored.
Oh my god.
Because it was like, it was a pretty popular page at the time. I had about 75,000 subscribers, which was a lot at the time. And so people saved my number with that, gigs and all that. So yeah, I've been around a while and started creating videos. It didn't hit.
Yeah.
It just didn't take off. But a couple of years, last year actually, it did. And I'm grateful for the journey so far. So I think it took off at a point where it had become a part of me. I think it took off at a point where I had given up, right, on taking off with my face. I'd given up and I was doing it anyways. I was going to talk into the void. If it was 20 years, I was speaking to the void. If no one was listening, I would talk into the void for 25 years. I had broken, I'd gotten to that point where even if I keep getting my 100 views and my 200 views, I would only have 1,000 views on Facebook or 2,000 views if I boosted it, if I sponsored it, right? It was a horrible experience. I think from 2020, I say this, I use this illustration. From 2020 till 2023, I gained about 50 followers on Facebook, and between then and now, over 200K. It's been amazing what's happened in the last one. I'm grateful, but yeah, it's been a long road.
This is crazy, man. This is absolutely inspiring. I don't even know what to say. But you mentioned your book, Christians in Content, which I absolutely love. It's such a niched subject. There's so many people talking about the faith. There's so many people talking about content, mainstream. But you had this very interesting synergy where you were talking directly to Christians in content. How did that come about? What made you see the need for that message to be put out into the world, and what was the process of creating it?
So the idea behind that is, I don't think, so I wrote it because I've got Christians in mind. And I titled it as such because I have Christians in mind. But the true idea behind it is, it's my letter to everyone who's got something to say. It's my letter to everyone who is a bit sane, right? Who has different opinions to some of the rot that's going on the internet right now.
Yeah.
You know, people who see the madness in the space, who don't like it, and who are willing to do something about it.
Yeah.
So you don't have the influence. Here's how you go from point 1 to 10 to 12, right? So it's, Christians will relate to it a lot more. But I've got people of other faiths, people who are even irreligious, right? But you don't have to be Christian to see that something's off.
Yeah.
You know, there's something off with stuff that's circulating. So that's my thought. My thought is, whoever has something to say, whoever is offended, whoever is triggered, whoever is burdened by some of the ills on social media today, and you want to do something about it, here's a guide to madness.
That's amazing, man. Well done. And I saw that you did a book tour. You did how many cities in Nigeria?
So I thought I was going to do 5. I did 3 and burned out.
3 is ridiculous, bro. Like,
I did 3.
when I saw that you did Enugu, you did Lagos,
Yeah.
you came to Abuja, I'm just like, what? And I know you're introverted.
I am.
So I'm like, this guy is doing a book tour in different cities, surrounded by strangers.
I was very as soon as I was done with Abuja, I gave up, man. I was going to go and so maybe next year, January, February,
You come
back on the road.
What was that experience like? What's the highest point of the book tours for you?
Meeting people.
Yeah.
It changes. If you care about people, meeting them changes your life every single time. You meet people in their suffering, in their pain, and I see this with a lot of emotions in my head right now. Hopefully I don't cry on Salem's podcast and people think that hard guy is not really hard. I'm a hard guy.
If you insist.
But when you meet people and you meet them vulnerable, and they see you as a character that has a role to play in their lives, and this character cares, this character will listen and not just claim to listen.
Yeah.
And this character has value to add to my life. It's deeply humbling, and it's an experience that I wish for everybody who is laboring over people's lives.
Yeah.
So meeting people, that was my highlight, my high point, however it is that it's said, and that's the reason I'm going to be back on the road. So being in front of a screen or behind a screen, talking to people, when you meet them in person and then you hear what I would refer to as testimonies, right, of how much of an impact your work has on them. It's amazing. And then not just your work, but you also have the opportunity to help people because you hear their problems and you can help them in whatever little way that you can. If it's counsel, if it's resources, whether they are scamming you or not, or you just don't want to know, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's just the work, whatever it is, you are there for them. You can talk to them. That is a blessing that I don't think money can buy. And then it also encourages you in your work, right? So I think that from time to time, and that's the beauty of building a community as well.
Yeah.
From time to time, you interact with your people, you meet with them, you gauge. It's like a mirror that shows you yourself, right? And the kind of an amount of work, the measure of the work that you're doing teaches you what to focus on, what not to focus on. That is my blessing from the tour, and I wouldn't trade that for anything.
That's amazing. As a reserved person who has an outward-facing career, or even not just career, an outward-facing purpose, because you do this on so many levels, not just content creation.
Yeah.
How do you recharge yourself? How do you look after yourself?
So I pray a lot. Spend quite some. I think that's my refreshment mechanism, because it's worked for me a lot when I wasn't out facing, in quote, right? When there were not a lot of people in my space, and when I was to a very large degree, which I'm still dealing with, but a large degree dealing with struggles in my relationships, family relationships, romantic relationships, just people issues, right? And you are at a place in your life where you just have a weight in your chest, right? It helps me a lot. It helps me a lot to pray. It helps me a lot to study. I think the Bible is the only book I actually read. Every other thing I consume differently.
Yeah.
And then I find that spending time away from the noise with people who matter, everyone does, but people who have active roles to play in my life, people who I love on a more personal note, family, a couple of friends, just living, just live. I was talking to myself last night and I said to myself, Eric, leave.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, everyone leaves. And I was like, that's deep. I need to do content around this. But finding that time away from the noise, away from being a spectacle that people, observe, and just going on a, if I call it a date, it will sound romantic, but going out with friends, going to see a movie, having a drink, going to get food, and going swimming. For those who go swimming, I will never. You get, I nearly died. I shan't.
What have you not learned?
Bro, the first time I went swimming was in a lagoon.
Why would that be your first time?
Do you get? I have this, I think that that's my toxic trait. I think I can do things that I have never done.
Oh God, why would your first time being in a lagoon?
Do you know, it was not, I was the only black person on that beach. So you can, and my hair was gold at the time. So you can imagine I was really a spectacle.
Oh my
I was
God.
really, that was the most embarrassing day of my life. When I came out, there was salt water. So when I came out, I was all white.
Oh my gosh.
It was horrible. So
and
when
your eyes and your nose and everything.
So when I see people swimming, I think it's a very fun experience. Maybe one day I'll get over my trauma. But
I wish you the best. Me, I've tried to learn to swim, but it's very humbling.
Do you swim?
I can't swim. I never finished. I never completed my lessons.
I saw that video you made, I think sometime last year, where you went to some water thing.
Now I just play in the water, but I can't swim. When I was going to learn, I think it was like my third lesson or so. I went on a Saturday, and kids were not in school, so like there were a lot of kids at the pool that bro. See some 5-6 year olds
just doing the thing,
doing, and me, I was still learning how to.
I'm traumatized, man. Just listen to this tale. Do you know how I came out of? I have a video of it. Someone made a video.
Oh my
gosh. Two lifeguards. My life flashed before my eyes. I was telling them, and I wasn't even saying, I wasn't making sense. I remember saying to them, this is not how I die. I don't die away from my country, somewhere in Europe, and it's not even the real Europe, just outside Europe. And they were saying, bro, we are Cypriots. Like, you want to be nice, you want to say nice things about our country. I was just saying all kinds of rubbish, and they just, you know how you bring something out of the water? That was how they held me hand to hand and swam out of the water. They were so tired, but I made it out.
Let's just thank God that you're here. And you're able to do everything you do and labor over the people that you do. Which brings me to the community of people that you disciple. Yeah. Tell me about it. So did it transition from Basketmouth Uncensored to now discipling people, or are these two different things? Are those in different episodes of your life? But
when you say disciple, what do you mean? I want to be sure what you're referring to.
You are the head lecturer.
Okay, I get it now. I want to be sure you were saying what you were saying, because that's a very it can be a very private part of my life. It's coming out to the open now, because I write about it now. But for the first 3-4 years, it was really hush hush. So I've always been a Jesus person. Yeah. Right? Some of my older content from like 9 years ago, I find it mind-blowing. Like, I read it, I'm like, who wrote this thing? So while I was running Basketmouth Uncensored, Bright will forgive me, it was a parody anyways, it was very bold there. Yeah. I also had another channel called Jesus Ways, right? And I think we were about 4,000 subscribers or so, but that was the germ in my heart, even more than the one that was actually making money. Because that was my first experience with total strangers being transformed by listening to someone they just randomly met on the internet. I knew, that was how I knew it was possible to make a change on the internet, to actually contribute to people's lives. So over time, that has, you know, taken different forms, taken different shapes. I think we started Mortified long before. We started Mortified in 2019. My content really started blowing up in 2023.
Yeah.
Right. So it was long before the noise, in
Yeah.
quote, and it's always been a hush thing, always been a private thing. It's not really like a talk to everybody type thing, because we're very particular about the number of people, so that it can be very hands-on, very one-on-one. That's the idea behind it. So I don't think it's metamorphosed. I think that it's just been, I've just had different areas to my life. You know, there's what I call it counsel, motivation, comedy, you know, being funny on one side. There is my work in tech, there's ministry, you know, and all those areas of my life. I think the package, Eric, is just has different sides to it, and I'm discovering different other sides as well.
Yeah, I mean, even me. So one thing that shocked me the other day is you posted some pictures you had taken some while ago, and I'm like, this guy, what thing this guy know they do?
Pictures of
photography.
okay.
I said, what does this guy not do? You know, and then on your birthday, you know, you talked about
I talked about that quite a bit.
all of that too. Why did you stop doing photography?
I think I woke up one morning, and that must have been sometime this year actually, and I realized that I had fallen out of love. It's a very painful thing to realize, especially with something that you have such an emotional connection to, because photography was such a huge part. I have degrees in photography.
Wow.
I have a degree in photography, I have a degree in advanced videography. So I pursued these things actively, right? And when I pursue something, I don't want to do it based on vibes and talent. I try to give myself to learn about it, be the best I can be. So yeah, it was a huge part of my life. At some point I was doing it professionally, but I went to a Yoruba wedding in Abeokuta sometime, and I've never been that stressed in my life, because the party never ends and the photographer has to be there. After that point, I said I was never going to do wedding photography again. And at that point, that was pretty much the most lucrative kind. And I started doing it for fun, got into other things. At some point, it just fizzled into the background. So I think I still like the idea of it. I think I know I'm still a brilliant photographer, but other things.
Not as a business.
Not as a business. I'm not even doing amateurishly anymore. Maybe when I retire in about 10 years, I will cook, take photographs, and make music.
You plan to retire in 10 years?
Oh, I do. And I have, obviously things don't always work out the way that we planned them. But I want to retire early so I can cook, take photographs, and make music. For fun. Amazing. All these things for fun. I look forward to a chill life.
Yeah.
I do.
So after you retire, it's not that you wouldn't still be working, it would be on your own terms.
On my,
only what you absolutely want to do.
Yeah. Like the brands that reach out to you and you tell them to shoot, you don't want them. And now I can't do that. I'm not at your level. I can't do that right now. You get
Eric, please, I still suffer from deliverables and deadlines.
So when I feel like, I will still work, right? But I'm looking forward to getting out of the race very early.
I agree with that. There's a video you made some time ago that was very striking.
Yeah.
It's a silhouette. It was a silhouette, and you were saying words like, and there's something you repeated. You said, "I cannot fail," and that video is one of those things you see, and you sort of just know that, okay, this isn't ordinary. This came from somewhere.
Yeah.
If you know, maybe to somebody else might just be affirmation.
Yeah.
But like, if you know, you can just tell that, okay, this is what's happening here, you know. So for you, where did that come from? Were you going through something in your real life? Is it a peep into what your normal, you know, every day is like? What was it? Where did that come from?
I regret that video did the numbers that it did. So I think that's probably my most viral piece of content. I regret that people shared it as much. I regret that I mean, I made it. I put it out there. Once you put something out there, you have no control over it. But it's been trivialized a little bit, you know, and even people who take it seriously don't fully feel the weight of it, right? I used to be quite a troubled young man, and to some extent, Jesus gives me a lot of peace. But you take that out of the equation, and you find a very troubled young man who's had very crazy experiences and whose life who's acquainted with quite some pain, right? And when you mix that with introvertedness and critical thinking, it's a recipe for acute depression.
Yep.
If there's such a thing. And so those words are a reflection of my thoughts every single day. These are not affirmations. I mean, they are, but in the sense that we've come to see and take affirmations today, I think they run a lot deeper than that. They are both affirmations and a prayer. Because in that video, I say things like, the cost is too high. I don't think a lot of people appreciate some of these words. Because for me, I know what the cost would be. I have a picture of it, right? Just another person in this line of people who go this way, who has gone this way. It can't be me. I can't do that. I can't be one of them. I have to count, I've got to be different. And so I wake up every day, maybe not when I wake up, but throughout the course of my day, I pursue purpose with a desperation without which I don't think it's attainable, right? I pursue with that desperation, knowing fully that this is much bigger than I am. This is much bigger than even my nuclear family will ever be. There's a lot that depends on me. I was praying this morning about a project that I have to execute next year, and I literally told God, I said, people from where I'm from don't do things like this. People from where I'm from don't rise like this. People from where I'm from don't come to this. Mix that with people from where I'm from who have my story, who have my background. We don't become symbols and icons like this. Help me, right? And so it's my vulnerability to my God. Most of the times, all the time when I make prayers like this, it's not in the public eye. So that one time, it's out there. And it's beautiful, also beautiful, to see that it's also a reflection of many people's reality. But what does it spur you to do?
Yeah.
What does it spur you to do? I read a post this morning about a 23-year-old who received a prophecy in his local church that he was going to travel the world as a photographer, as a footballer. And then a few years, so he quit his bricklaying job and started pursuing a career in football, right? Put in the work, trial to trial, trying to get in. And last night or 2 nights ago, he scored the winning goal in Copa Libertadores. That's the South American Champions League final. And it spoke to me, right? Prophecy can be direction. Prophecy also can just die there without work. So when you're done saying these things that you believe are affirmations, what are you doing differently? Right? What's the measure of your life that you invest in your pursuits? For me, I'm okay dying, right? I'm okay with ceasing to exist. And I think that's something that the last chapter in my book, talks about. I start talking about the concept of death. A man has to appreciate what death is and come to terms with it and embrace that fact. If not, he will spend all his life in fear of it and never really live a day, right? So I think that coming to terms with this thing, I am willing to bury my physical existence inside of the things that I believe, right? If I think that this will be a greater good. When I say I can't fail, it's not as shallow as I can't be broke, It's not as shallow as if I don't get money waiting I gain. It's not as shallow as pursuing, this set of resources. For me, it runs a lot deeper. I've got lives to touch. And people from where I'm from, they discourage, they don't encourage. Their lives discourage, right? I can't be one of them, I can't fail. For me, that's what it is. And I got that out without shedding a tear. Proud of myself.
Me up.
Proud of myself.
Eric, this is crazy, man. Like, I feel like this episode is for me. I don't think it's even for anybody who's watching. This is purely for my own satisfaction.
For me as well.
I'm feeling like I should just keep it and be watching it only me, but I mean we have to share it with the world.
Absolutely.
But this is just amazing. So my final question for you before we go into the end segment is, so how do you measure success? Now that you've agreed with God that I cannot fail.
Yeah.
How do you measure success, considering also, I've heard you say comment section, following, all those things are not a measure of any kind of success. I've heard you also say, you've allowed yourself to be uncertain, to be in a place where I don't know until I know.
Yeah.
So how do you measure success at this season of your life?
I think that I leave room for a lot of growth. And while I do that, I appreciate the fact that there's also milestones that ought to be celebrated. It may not be an outward celebration, but mentally you know that you've achieved this. So when I talk about success, I want to remind myself that I really can't, and whoever wants to consume can consume, but it's pretty much for me. But I really can't define success if I have not defined what my purpose is.
Yeah.
Right? Outside of purpose, what are you achieving?
Yeah.
Right? And I know for a fact that my success is not measured in monetary gain. I know that for a fact. I am okay being poor and broke and destitute, and I will still be, and I can't fail, right? Let me say that, and I will still be hugely and largely successful because there are things that I've identified and I'm doing that. My success is also not in numbers. With more numbers, chances increase. Chances of reaching the people who you are actually after increase. So I'm fine with changing 10 lives a year, right? I'm fine with affecting 5 lives a year. But I'm interested in the numbers as well, because if I see 5 people who are genuinely interested in change and who I can affect their lives in every 1,000, right? If it takes 1,000 to find 5, then in 10,000 I can find 50. So numbers, they're important, right? But I want to define my success with respect or in connection to my purpose. I have a message. I see a problem. I'm trying to fix that problem in alignment with the dictates of my faith, right? I don't have to put it out there, hey, this is what I'm doing and all that, but there's a problem, we're trying to fix that. I'm trying to fix that, and we're going to be many. So for me, if I build a community of people who are interested in seeing their world burn for Jesus, for righteousness, right? For uprightness, at the very least, for clean hands and a pure heart. So this is it again. If I can raise a community of people who are interested in seeing the world this way, so it's a transference thing. I raise a community who are interested, and so they raise a community, right? That for me, every single time I see a life changed and a life changed and a life interested in changing lives, that's success for me right now. As I grow, it amplifies. Money helps a lot, right? Obviously. But as I grow, the different ways that can be achieved, those doors, those corridors, they are constantly being opened up. You discover new things, you grow, you learn. But for me, this is central to everything that I do. So if I can, and the reason that I'm interested in blockchain tech, for instance, is because everybody will gravitate towards it. So let's stand in front.
Yeah.
We can talk to more people. We can reach more people if we stand in front of somewhere that we know everybody will eventually come. That's it.
Eric, thank you so much.
Thank you for much.
I have a few, so we have a final rapid fire part.
Okay.
You know,
Let's
that's
see.
black and white. So you cannot. I'm going to ask you like a bunch of questions. Don't think, just answer.
Okay.
The first thing that comes
So,
to your mind.
what do you mean don't think? Like, how many seconds is thinking? Let's establish the goalpost so it doesn't shift. All right.
Take your time.
Okay.
But you also don't have time.
Okay.
So we need to run through them real quick.
Like how many questions?
How many questions do we have? 8 questions.
Don't tell. Okay. Just go
Don't
ahead.
worry, they're very short.
All right. Cool.
Let's go. Are you ready?
I would think so.
What's a meal you would never eat?
I don't eat a lot of. I'm sorry, but I don't eat a lot of meals. I only eat specific meals.
Wow,
So
so
the
you're
meals I
one
will
of
never eat, there are plenty. There are plenty in this Lagos. There are plenty in this country.
Oh
That's
gosh,
it.
I don't know what to tell you. What's the most interesting compliment you've ever gotten?
I didn't think you'd be this tall.
Oh wow. Why do you feel like that's a compliment?
I think I like it when I surprise people,
But it means they thought you were short.
which is okay.
They thought you were giving short man.
And why are you trying to mess with my mind? It was a compliment before you opened your mouth.
Sorry.
What's going on? All right.
What do you wish more people knew about you?
That I would like to be left alone. That I don't want you coming close to me and asking me, "Are you Eric?"
Oh my god! People are here, though. Please be Eric. You never know, leave me alone. You just try to buy egg. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Why?
I don't know. I think it's more about the scent of it.
What's one thing you've done that most people wouldn't believe about you?
Sinned a lot.
I think many people think you're perfect.
I think so.
And it's your fault.
And it's my fault. We're going to change. Are we? Yeah.
No, what do you mean you're going to change? What will you start doing?
What am I saying?
Cats or dogs?
Oh, dogs every day. Twice on Sunday.
My man. So final question, if you could invent a new holiday, what would you celebrate?
Where do you get these? Are not quick fire questions, but these are deep philosophical questions.
This is when if Salem King tells you rapid fire, you can expect that it will
I know this caught me unawares. What would the holiday celebrate? I think it will celebrate independence.
Which one?
Nigerian independence.
There's already a holiday to celebrate Nigerian independence.
No.
You want us another day, another public holiday? I'm not mad at it.
I mean, when we do get an independence, I would love to have a holiday to celebrate that.
I love it. Thank you so much, Eric. Thank you for doing this with me. I still have so many questions for you, but we're out of time. I'm going to say I want to reach back to you for us to do this again. Maybe next year, maybe another time.
Absolutely.
I might ask you some of the questions again, see if your answers have changed.
I love that. I love the reflection and everything.
Yeah.
See if you're still the same person.
Yeah.
But I think they'll pretty much be the same.
Yeah.
But I hope I would have grown by.
I know for a fact that you'd have grown. I feel like if I asked you the same questions by tomorrow, you would have grown. It's just your nature.
Yeah. And thank you so much for having me. This has been my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you so much. I didn't mess up this handshake. I fear messing up handshake. Lord, I messed up my handshake with Kennedy. And for days I was thinking, because he was reaching for, and I was reaching for, and it was just.
No, COVID-19 made it worse. When somebody's like this, and you're like,
all right. So thank you very much, Salem.
Nice one.